Yeah, and then straight in and then pray at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Eddie has to get his tissues ready.
I need to get
Sorry.
mine.
I got
Look,
it ready right here, man.
I'm
I got it
ready.
ready right here.
Curtis has to get his as
On my
well.
desk. On my desk
I love
waiting,
it.
brother.
Ah,
On my desk waiting.
I do cry. It's just that the tears won't roll, but I do cry.
You cry upwards.
Yeah, yeah, back reverse cry. I do, I do. Well, let's start. You ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to This Is Marriage UK. It's Curtis and Juanita here. We are having another conversation about where are the men in the UK. I'm always getting it wrong. Where are the men?
UK urban churches ready for committed relationships and marriage. You're gonna get it soon.
Only my wife knows the
Save the
title.
day. Save the day. Save the day.
Only my wife knows the title. So yeah, we're having that discussion because we know and we've been hearing it for such a long time. Where are the men? Women will say it to us throughout all these years because everybody wants to be married, but it's the women saying it, not the men. The men are not approaching us and asking, where are the men? Where are the women? The women are asking because they are in the churches far more than the men. They're looking for a husband. What's going on? Why is the thing so pear-shaped?
And not everyone wants to be married, so.
True.
But for those who do want to be, we are doing this piece of research just to find out where we can be of assistance and how we can just challenge this, I dare say, epidemic going on with a lack of men in our spaces. So, without further ado, we want to introduce our guest. You know him; he's our resident doctor, Eddie Hypolite. He's the mega mind behind parts of This Is Marriage, and we always draw on him for wisdom, and we're drawing on him clear from Australia, and it's early morning for him.
Early morning, man. I was up from 5:30. I want you to know. It's
Listen,
only love for you to get me up this early, you know.
that's it. It was early morning for him, and it's also not summer for him, people.
Nice winter.
It's winter for him. So as you can see in the brown attire, it's
I got,
winter
I got
for
the
him.
air conditioning on 28 right now.
Wow, you see?
Hold on. What's the weather? What's the weather where you're at now?
It's cold, brother. It's hold on. What is it outside now? Outside right now is 9 degrees.
In
Oh,
Australia.
In Australia, brother, we get winter, you know.
yeah, but
You,
we
you
thought
got
your winter
two
was
hours
sunny.
outside. You got 2 hours outside Sydney. But up in the mountains, it's pure snow. There's like they're up at the skis. They're skiing up in the Blue Mountains.
They don't show us this on
They
TV.
lied. Richard Attenborough, David
Brother, I'm
Attenborough.
watching too much BBC over here.
Listen, that's what I keep telling you all. You need to come here. It's the best kept secret. You know what I mean?
That's why you have
That's why
Uggs.
that's why they landed here. They said no whites only. We can't have no one else coming in here but us. You know what I mean? Let's get rid of the blacks who are already here and let's just keep it for whites only, man.
Oh, we started already. So
Remember,
that's
remember,
so that's
yeah,
why you have Uggs.
just so that people know, Australia is a black country that was colonized by white people. Okay? You think of South Africa, think of Australia in the same way.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. All right. Anyway.
It's okay.
So,
I'm gonna repeat that question. So that's why you have Uggs.
hey, listen, you think I'm random?
Why?
Listen.
Oh, he literally has Uggs.
Literally have.
Look. I
I'm
mean,
walking around with these in my house all day, brother.
you're
Trust me.
fully Australian. That's what you're trying to say.
Slow down, slow down,
Okay.
slow down. You
You're on your
know,
way.
yes, slow down, bro. Slow
I
down.
got a question though about Uggs because back in the day when Uggs first came, kind of hit the UK, my Aussie friend said it was for bogans. Could
Yeah,
you translate what bogans are?
chavs.
For chavs, but it's no
Yeah.
longer the case, right?
No.
Because you're
Well,
not a chav.
listen, I would say it's for chavs because they would just wear. I don't wear these on the street. No, this is in my yard. You know, yeah, slow down. This is house shoes. You know what I mean? I
What?
wear it inside. I can wear it out on the back patio. You know what I mean? I could wear it in the garden. Because of the soles, but I ain't wearing this to go like shopping. No, sir. Now
Oh,
that's
so
when it gets chavvy because and that's when Uggs just came out, and Uggs was only created for when they first came out for in the house, but people wear them everywhere, and so Uggs are like, oh, all right, people want to wear them everywhere, so they changed, as it were, they changed the sole,
yeah.
and then and then obviously they've got the large range of Uggs that they've got now, and they've got Uggs that you can wear outside. You know what I mean? And they're designed nicely for outside and that.
Well, we are not
I still don't do
sponsored.
that.
We are not sponsored by Uggs, but I just wanted to say my £170 Uggs is not for the house. No.
No,
It's
they can't. They
not.
can't just for the house at
No.
170 pounds. Listen, I'll stop that.
For slippers, anyway. Ed,
I've got two pairs actually.
Whoa.
yeah,
This is
that's
my
that,
second pair.
that life. When it's 9 degrees, you have to have 2 pairs anyway.
Listen, I don't wear two pairs at the same time. Listen, I ain't that shabby.
But please introduce yourself, and I'm gonna go straight for the jugular on this topic.
My name is Eddie Hypolite. I am historically I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for what is it? What are we in 2025? 24 years. My call to ministry. I pastored for 18 years, but my call to ministry has been 25 years. Currently, I run a consultancy around resilience and creating resilient cultures and self-development using narrative, helping people to go over their stories and figure out who they are and why they are. I always say I help stuck people unstick themselves. Currently, I'm a PhD student with the University of South Australia, and I'm researching. I'm part of a research team of three other researchers, all of us from the African diaspora, researching belonging and the how we enhance belonging for African diaspora students in the education system. So my research specifically is on the role of teachers in creating racially inclusive schools. And that's what's keeping me busy. Lord have mercy. That's what's keeping me full-time busy. So that's me. I am married to the beautiful Yvonne Hypolite, previously Yvonne Somerville. We've been married 32 years this April gone. And I am the father of a 21-year-old who was born 5. They have one as well. Charlie's the same.
Yeah,
She was
fair.
born 5,
15.
but beautiful. I have a beautiful 21-year-old who's at university, and just yeah. So that's us, and we live here in New South Wales, in Australia. We've been here the past 12 years. So I think that's about. I should cover everything for now.
You know what? I'm thinking how to. No. I'll do that after. Okay. So, bro.
He's a brave pick.
Do you know what I'm doing? I'm actually playing out different scenes simultaneously in my head. I'm so used to that. But let me start here. We are worried about why men are not in the building in the churches. We're worried. We're asking a question in our research: where are they, literally, and why are they where they are? Why did they leave? We're looking at the church-wide. Well, what did the church do or do wrong, or has it done anything wrong? And we're also going to put something on the women to put an eye on the women to say what are women doing or not doing right, to kind of add to this.
In terms of relationships, we're talking.
Yeah, because if we don't, we cannot have a situation where there's 1 to 8 as a ratio in general, especially for the Black church. And the white church and the Black church are very different spaces, different journeys, different narratives. Where do you want to start on this? And on asking the question, where are the men?
We're specifically looking at UK urban churches. We're not yet narrowing it down to demographics of race like the Black church or the white church, but looking at it as an urban, just in general, urban space.
Well, they haven't disappeared.
Bearing in mind the ratio,
there hasn't been. Yeah.
Bearing in mind the ratio is about 50-50 in the UK, men to women.
Yeah.
So there's something, right? Yeah.
They haven't disappeared. There hasn't been some rapture, and men have gone. There haven't been any wars,
right,
that has created disparity in the population. This isn't like 19, this isn't, we're not in like the late 1940s, early 1950s asking where all the men are because millions of them are dead. So they're somewhere. And they're not in the places that we would traditionally find them anymore. So they're not in and one of the great places for us is the Caribbean community. Let me just speak from the Caribbean community perspective. They're just not in the church. And so my my contention actually isn't why aren't men in the church. It's why are men church, why are men church poor? Why are they value poor when it comes to church?
Oh, break
Why are
that
they,
down a little.
when I pastored, when I pastored, when I pastored here in Australia, and it was here that I kind of created the idea came into my head, the concept came into my head. I would pastor the church of 800 members. We would struggle to put 55 names for leadership on church board when I pastored at the university church.
Yeah.
800 members, and I'm struggling to put 55 names. Oh, I'm really busy at the moment. Oh, I have other commitments. And so I thought to myself, well, let me go onto Facebook because all of these people that I'm asking and that we're asking, they're all on Facebook. They're all on social media. So I went onto social media and I saw what they were busy with. And the funny thing is that they were just busy with their lives. They weren't doing like, no, they're not partying or nothing like that, but they're busy with their community projects. They're busy with their family, they're busy with that. And I'm like, all right, you ain't time poor, you're value poor. When it comes to the church, you don't place high value on things like the leadership for the church. You don't place high value on being involved in the things of the church. Obviously, the church, as a university church, it had its own built-in issues of why that was, you know, the the um, the ridiculous expectations that were on them as leaders, the fact that historically they'd never been felt supported, the fact that people were just so critical. It's an academic community, so people are just overly critical, and all of that. They was like, oh no, it's just not for me. So they just found value in other things, and I feel like if we think about the church and we think about the church in our journey with the church. I think about my journey with the church and my generation's journey with the church. My generation was first generation from Caribbean parents. So church was just a given. It was just a given, I remember telling my mom when I was about 10, I'm not going to church. Like, my mom beat me in the bed, beat me on the way to church, pinched me at church and then beat me on the way home. Like, yeah, I just didn't do that again. It didn't. Yeah, that was church. What? Are you taking you? Hey, hey, hey. What kind of thing you say there? Grenadians. And so, yeah, it was just a given. It was just a given that we was at church. But even when we were at church, for our generation, I've often, church wasn't something that really engaged us.
You talking
It
about as men?
engaged,
Do you mean as men?
as men, yeah, as men. Church didn't engage us as men. You know what I mean? Church didn't even engage us as a community of Caribbeans. What church did was church kept us away from the wider culture. So the church kept you out of the dances. The church kept you out of the parties. The church kept you off the road because we had youth clubs and everything. So the engagement for young people was keeping them out of trouble, keeping them off the streets, And at the same time, and I don't want to say it in a disparaging way because it was beautiful. Hainault Forest. You're old enough to remember, Hainault Forest and, the early days of camp meeting and, and then church youth club. Woolston had a youth club. Chiswick had like a slamming youth club. You know what I mean? brilliant youth clubs. Brixton had a youth club, although the main hubs around London. But when it came to what we were struggling with in the streets, church never engaged us.
Yeah.
When it came to the racism that we was feeling, when it came to experiencing, when it came to the inequities that we was feeling, when it came to experiencing, when it came to stop and search that we were experiencing, the church never engaged that as conversations. And I'm talking, forget that happening with the white church. The black church never engaged it. So that's why you saw during the 70s, especially during the 70s, in Adventism, in Pentecostalism, in the Pentecostal church, in the Baptist church, in the Methodist church, in the Catholic church. That's why you saw so many black men leaving Christianity and going into Rastafari.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember my cousin, my first cousin, he and my mum used to always just get into deep theological debates. He was Rasta, and he always used to say, something, Auntie Phyllis, if I wasn't a Rasta, I would be an Adventist. Because the theological you know what I mean? But because of the theological similarities, in spaces. But there was no social engagement. No social engagement of men's lives.
How would that social engagement of men's lives look in a Saturday, for example, or a Sunday, or even at youth club? How could the church have engaged that conversation? What would they
I think the church,
had to put
I
on?
think at the time, the church could have sat down and asked questions like, how many of you have been stopped, and how many of you have been stopped by the police this week?
Simple, isn't it?
Like simple. How many of you know guys that have been picked up on sus? Then it was sus.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, literal things like that. How many of you at school this week in classroom was thrown out of the class for no reason at all?
And then do what, Ed? Advocate for these kids?
Advocate for the kids. Let the kids know that we see you. Just let the kids know that, we believe you when you say what's going on. I think for our Caribbean parents, our Caribbean parents had such trust in the education system because they was raised under the British education system. But they was raised under the British education system being taught by West Indians in the West Indies. So the expectation for what you did in school, how you performed in school, you know what I mean, was formed by people who believed in them. But then we got here. And so they thought, well, actually, they're going to be in England and they're getting it from, as it were, the horse's mouth. So I don't want to make this about education. I just want to make this about the spaces in which our social lives were impacting on our spiritual lives. And the church just had no engagement. Forward to the 2020. Forward to the current 2025, you know what I mean? Let's go back a bit. I remember Pastor Lolly Fontaine.
We're going to have her on soon.
Yeah. I remember Lolly speaking to me one time. She said, you don't understand, Ed. Yeah. If it wasn't for the Live March, I was on my way out the door. She said during that period, I was just on my way out the door because I'm like, what does our church even stand for on issues? And then, obviously it was the killing season back then. 2010, 2011. And then we did the Live March. And she said, it wasn't until you did the Live March that I realized, oh, all right, yeah, the church is here. The church does care. The church does have a voice. The church does have a presence. Let's come forward to now, 2020. The global racial awakening, where we find ourselves now with multiple genocides taking place worldwide, austerity, social inequity. And the church is just quiet. The church is just like, they don't, they don't, like, not only do you not have a voice, man, you don't even have an opinion. I mean, write an opinion piece for us. Yeah. Let us know where we're supposed to stand. Oh, no. Well, we don't engage in politics. Yeah, but allow people to come for your charity status. All of a sudden, you're going to be political. And so,
Talk the truth.
I really have to be careful now because,
It's too
Yeah,
late.
it's too late.
It's too
now that
late.
I'm not employed by the church, people think that when they hear me speak like this, oh, it is just being bitter. But you've known me long enough to know
Yeah.
I spoke like this when I was employed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I feel like I'm much more conscious now. I have to be much more conscious of how I speak about the church because of my love for the church.
Yeah.
And so I feel that men are in the space that no, I cannot be in a place where I'm only a spiritual being
Oh.
and my social life and my social reality and the world around me is not challenged and I don't have a voice in that, So
You're,
I don't think I think those I feel like those are some of the reasons why um um I feel like those are some of the reasons why men are they just aren't in the church. Then the other thing, I honestly do believe. Sorry, you was going to say something, Curtis.
I'm caught between hearing what you're about to say and saying my point. I don't know which one is.
No, 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 go on. I'll
You're
remember.
alluding to then one of our key points, which is to look at the church
Mhm.
aspect of this, and um, it looks like we have now reaped the harvest because we didn't sow the seeds from way back. But we're also looking at the generation of men now who are, say, 25, 28, 32, about 18 years younger than us, thereabouts, and they are not there. Did they just follow our uncles out the door?
No, I feel that I feel that I'm 60. Yeah, I just recently turned 60.
Never.
So,
This guy.
and so I think about my generation and the generation older than me. It's like talking about between 60 and 65. We're the generation in the 80s that burnt down England. We were the rioting generation.
Yeah.
We were the poll tax generation. You know what I mean? And so, and then we were the Brixton and the Toxted, and we were that generation, you know. But I feel that we went through so much just trying to eke out who we were in England that we didn't have time to reflect on the stories, reflect on our contribution. Yeah, I refused to see myself as British and Black British until I was in my 30s.
Yeah, I get that.
Until I was in my 30s. Why? Because I didn't reflect on the journeys that brought us. England is nothing without the contribution of our ancestors in slavery. There is no English, there is no industrial revolution if there is not the death and the sweat and the toil of West Indians in the Caribbean. If there is no transatlantic slave trade, there is none. England doesn't exist as a dominant global superpower. When you think about in India and across the world, yeah, and in Africa and in the Caribbean. And then when I think about our contribution to the British system, after the Second World War, and the Windrush generation, and economically just saving all these industries, the national health industry, the transport, factory, for me not to claim my Britishness and my blackness and being Black British is a disrespect to them. And I feel that as a generation, we didn't have enough time to even think about those journeys. And, our children, your children probably don't know unless you tell them that when your parents and your grandparents came to England, they lived like the Bangladeshi and the Romanian refugees that we laugh at today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? 6 families in one house. I remember telling that to a group of students once when I was during Black History Month. They were like, nah, I said, listen, we're back here tomorrow. Go home, ask your parents. If the house that they grew up in, your parents came from the Caribbean to that house. When they came back the next day, sir, I can't believe it. My mum was saying, my grandmother was saying that there was like six of them in one house. There's four of them. We've never even had chance to tell those stories. And so I feel that what's happened is that this generation has now come and they aren't connected to anything. They're not connected historically to a story. And because our story is a good story, as difficult as it was, our story is a good story. It wasn't all struggle, it was joy. You know what I mean? And it was resilience and it was history and it was beauty, you know. They're not connected spiritually, they're not connected historically to that, to a journey. And then at the same time, they're Western youth.
Yeah.
They're Western youth. They're Western young people, and they've grown up in an education system. Although they've grown up in church, they've grown up in an education system, and they've grown up in a Western society that still rejects the idea of church, rejects the idea of the divine. They've grown up with it in their family, so they don't see it in the same way that we see it. They don't see it as necessary as we see it.
I want to
You
go
know.
back to a point you made. You mentioned something that's made me reflect. My granddad was born in the 20s, 1920s.
Mm,
Well, both of them really. And they weren't, well, although my dad's dad was into church, a lot of our grandparents, who would be about 100 now, 100 years old now,
mm,
they weren't really, our grandfathers were not really into the church experience either. And
mm.
I wonder if men have always kind of been vacant or lost or not, they've not been, like you said, they've not been identified as being catered for in any way. You said that in the very first.
I don't think it's catered for. I don't think it's catered for, Kurt. I think for that generation, there was black men. My mum was born 1925. Yeah, if mummy was alive, she would have been 100 this month. You know. So you think of those who were born in the 1920s, those who were born in the 1930s. They were born neck deep in colonialism. So they had a clear understanding of what the church was. They had a clear understand. They had a first-hand colonial experience of the church. They had a first-hand colonial experience of the church. That's why they were like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. I'm good. I see what the church does over here. I see what the church does over there. I see how the church acts on behalf of the state and steals land. I see how the church erases culture. You know what I mean? Because it's not like they didn't have, you know, if you think about the map of the Caribbean, my cousin wrote a book called The Ancestors, which is based on my mum's family, the Lett family, the Letts and the McQueens and the Raddicks and that family in Grenada. And in one of the books, there's pictures of uh, um, there's pictures of Howard University. And one of our family members was a graduate of the class of 1921, the dental, the dent, you see, the dental, the dental, the dental school of Howard University. They were graduates of the class of 1921, And I was like, what? But then I thought to myself, well, hold on, what am I even chatting about? Wow. Because then when you think about the connection between the Caribbean and America and the connection between Marcus Garvey and the Garvey movement and and America. And you think about the fact that Malcolm X's mother was Grenadian, but she was a Pan-Africanist and a Garveyite. Then you realize that there's a whole cultural ecosystem So while you do have the church, you also have Pan-Africanism and you have these other ways of thinking about the world that these parents and grandparents are growing up with. So they're growing up with a different idea of the church and a different view of the church. They're growing up looking at the church from deeply colonial lens. And they're like, no, no, I ain't in that. You know
So,
what
so
I mean?
why did the women stay then, Ed? So why did our grandmas stay and leave
I
their
think they
husbands
both
at home?
stayed. I think the men and the women stayed. Yeah, I think the men and the women stayed. I don't think it was like the men stayed and the women left and the men stayed. I mean, the men left and women stayed. I don't think it was. I think across the community there was a generation of men and women that kind of looked at the church in that way. The reason why I'm saying all of that, Kurt, is men not being in the church ain't got nothing to do with women. Yeah, I mean this whole thing of like, well, the services and that, they cater too much to women. All right, when you tell me a worship service that caters for men, what does that look like?
As
It's a,
you said before, it sounds like going afar.
yeah, all right, fair enough. But you're still gonna need women to sing the descant, ain't you?
You are.
Unless you're gonna get men singing like, you know what I
I'm with
mean?
you.
I mean, I honestly, men not being in the church ain't got nothing to do with women. For me, it ain't got nothing to do with women.
Are you talking about men broadly, or are you talking about men just in general?
Men in general. If
What do you
men
think?
don't want to go to church, they ain't got nothing to do with women. You know what I mean?
Tell us
I
what it is.
believe that putting it on women is an easy fix.
Okay.
I believe that putting on women is an easy fix. But I don't think that men not being in church has anything specifically to do with women. I believe that men not being in church,
Yeah, you think about it. Think before you speak.
I think that men not being in church and struggling with this idea of church catering to women has to do more with power and dominance than it has to do with um than it has to do with uh than anything else. Yeah. The Bible is an Eastern book. The Bible isn't a Western book.
Yeah.
The Bible is a book that was hijacked by you know, Western ideas of what a human is and what it means to be human. But the Bible has already, the kingdom through the Bible has already defined what human relationships are. Not what men relationships are and women relationships, but what human relationships are. And in the biblical idea of relationships, there is a co-equal leadership and responsibility and intimacy and grounding and growth. Now, I know people are going to come for me with, yeah, well, what about headship and we can have discussions on headship but any idea of a man that has a woman in subservience, any idea of manhood that has a woman, behind every man, any idea of that, um, yeah, that's Western individualism. That's not the kingdom's ideal for us. That's
So what
not the
is it? Where,
kingdom's.
where does the power come in?
Well, the power comes in where men decide what a woman's place is. Come on now. We're members of a church that don't even ordain women as ministers. They're just about ordain them as elders. We'll ordain you as semi-ministers. We won't ordain you, we'll commission you. Adventists are saying that. The people of the book. Other denominations are like picking up their Bibles like, what? Like, what is that? The Great Compromise? What? Commission? What is like, what are you talking?
So men are not coming to church not because of, but because of there is a power issue.
I think men have not figured out. I think men have no, not figured out. I feel that men have been sold an idea of manhood by the Western ideal of manhood, by a Western ideal of manhood, by patriarchy, in which men are in, where men sit in, where men sit in dominance in both social and spiritual spaces. Yeah. And I believe that the struggle for men is living in a world in which you don't have dominance over this person. You just have equal space with this person. It's just, I remember when there's four people that have been, if that makes sense,
I'm
if that
getting you.
makes,
I'm getting you.
I remember when I was in seminary in Jamaica, there's four educators that have shaped me as I am now. Two women, two men. The third person to shape me was my professor and my teacher at university, Dr. Olive Hemmings.
Yeah,
Dr.
no,
Olive Hemmings. And I remember being in a class with her, you know. She taught me the power of one. She taught me the power of one. And you think about the fact that she is uh, 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 she's a theologian, first of all, and then she's an Adventist theologian, second of all, and then she's a Jamaican Adventist theologian in an extremely patriarchal and toxic masculine environment. Toxic masculine environment. You know what I mean? So I remember one day we was in class, all of us as theology majors in there. And I remember it was Nigel David, Pastor Nigel David. We was in class and Nigel said, Miss, I heard that you're a feminist. You know, we were first year students. And she said, yes, I am a feminist, but don't worry. I am a feminist who love man. You know what I mean? So everyone laughed like, yeah. So Nigel said, so miss, as a feminist then, does that mean that you are seeking equality with men? I never forget her answer. It's, and this answer was like 32 years ago. She said, Mr. David. And she would turn her head when she wanted to make a point to us. She said, Mr. David, by virtue of the fact of creation, I am already your equal. I am just fighting that you understand it. And I know. And when she said it, my brain just went click. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And so the Bible idea of relationship is that we are created as co-equal individuals. Sin destroys that. It ruptures that. You know what I mean? Because of our self-centeredness.
yeah.
The kingdom brings us back to what I call other-centeredness, and back to that sense of co-equal again, and how we figure that out. And the Bible does that, and the kingdom does that by saying, as far as God looks at you, there's neither male nor female. You know what I mean? There is this. The Spirit is giving gifts to the whole church. The Spirit is saving who the Spirit saves. The Spirit is speaking through. Now the Spirit is working within, social norms, cultural norms, because the Bible has to work, the Spirit has to work within our lived reality. But the kingdom also has its lived reality, despite our lived reality. And I don't think that men, what is happening is that men, we have this idea of manhood still based on this Western idea of, yeah, we're equal, but it's kind of that equality, isn't it? Like, but yeah, men still stay at the head, don't they? You know what I mean? And the Bible says like, well, yeah, but headship isn't about dominance. And headship is about equal submission.
Yeah.
Yeah, the man is the head of the woman, even as Christ is head of the church, but Christ gives himself in submission. So Yeah, we are all under. Yeah, so it's not a headship of dominance. It's just a headship of surrender. It's a headship of service.
So just to ask, so are men missing from our congregations and wanting to become involved in relationships because of their patriarchal ideas? Is that what you're saying? That
I think
they
men
don't
are
fit in that
men are
space?
missing because men. Yeah, I believe it's not so much. Yeah, I believe that the idea of patriarchy, not just in church, but patriarchy in general. I believe that what it's done is created in men this space of it's created this space of imbalance. It's created this space of imbalance. And so you'll hear men chatting things like, well, if a woman's making more money than me, how can I marry a woman who's making more money than me? I'm like, bruv, what are you even talking about? How are you gonna define your worth and her worth by something as transient and as
That's money.
basic as money? Money comes and money goes, and money comes and money goes, and money comes and money goes. What are you talking about?
Do you know
You
what?
know?
I wanted to address this. This actually goes on to our next point, actually,
Yeah.
because some of the discussions that we're having
Hmm.
with with women and what we're seeing highlighted heavily in social media, and I don't think it's a majority,
Sorry.
but I don't think it's a majority of women that hold these issues, hold these opinions, but I think it's growing and it's impacting our youngers. We don't know the impact yet, but I think it's there because they're consuming this, and that is the standards by which we enter into relationships. And conversations are being had about, are the standards that are being held for relationships too high? So I want to ask you a question. As a form of inspiration, although we are doing research, this is a form of research. I can ask you this. What was the standard by which you would have accepted Yvonne or considered her for marriage? And what do you think her standard was for you to be a husband at that point when you were, how old were you, in your early 20s?
The standard for Yvonne, the standard for Yvonne was a caring heart. And I know it sounds cliche, but so much of my, so much of in my early years, so much of the criteria was just about look and vibe and feel and all of that. When we got back to church, and you know the story, Yvonne and I were best friends trying to set each other up with our best friends. You know, my dad was an alcoholic. I probably told you the story before. My dad was an alcoholic. Then my dad had a stroke,
Mm.
you know. And Yvonne and I weren't dating then. She was just my best friend. But my best friend and Yvonne, I had to go and clear, my dad was in hospital. I wanted to go clear up his flat. Yvonne said, I will come with you, you know. When I got there, it was an alcoholic's flat, you know. And I went into the bathroom and I was like, oh, I can't have no one come in here. You know what I mean? I said, I'll do the bathroom. I didn't know that the bedroom was worse. And I remember Yvonne coming in the bathroom and she came in with a plastic bag and a soiled pair of my dad's pants. Yeah. And she said, Eddie, look, you know, there's some clothes that are really bad. There's some soiled pants here. And like, I'm just going to throw them, but I've got another bag that's got washing and I'll take it home and I'll wash it. And I remember turning away and like, all right, thanks. Like, but my eyes filled up with tears. My eyes filled up with tears. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want her to see me having that emotional moment in that moment. But in that moment, I said, that's it, Lord. Whoever's you're gonna send, let them have Yvonne's heart. I'm at the time, Yvonne's still like my best friend, and I'm still trying to set her up with my best friend, and you know what I mean. But let them have Yvonne's heart. Eventually, you know, it came around. My friend weren't interested in that way. I wasn't interested in her best friend that way, but all of us still remained tight. And then, you know, the veil was lifted, and we realized it was us. Um, I feel that Yvonne's standard for me I feel that Yvonne's standard for me was ambition and trust. You know what I mean? Come on now. When Yvonne met me, you know Yvonne. When Yvonne met me, I didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. You know what I mean? Yvonne was already an educated woman. You know what I mean? A cardiac physiologist. She was on her fifth car and her fourth BMW in 5 cars. You know what I mean? I was just a man who just come off a road, you know, but she had seen the change that was taking, she had seen the change that had taken place in my heart. And so she knew that my life was going to catch up with my heart. My life was going to catch up. And so for her, that was it. You know, we used to roll up at concerts, and women now can't do that with any and any man. But I'm not saying that there ain't men that you can't do it with. We used to roll up at concerts, you know, and I was broke. Yvonne used to say, how much is it to get in the concert? I said, I mean, it's about £5. Yvonne would pull like £40 out of her purse in the car and put the money in my hand. So that when we rolled up at the door, I would pull the money out of my pocket and pay. You know what I mean? And whatever, you know, if there's refreshments. And then when we're going home, you know what I mean? I'd give her back the change and that. She said, like, no, I can't have you rolling up at the door like that. Seriously. And it was her way of just protecting my sense of self. Now, I didn't see that as a like, nah, man, this woman, like, I saw that as, oh, all right, that's the way we are rolling.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, then, that's the way our relationship is rolling. All right, you know what I mean? Now, since then, come on now. I've flown her all over the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've been all over the world speaking, and they're like, I'm bringing my wife with me. You need to send me 2 tickets. And I've carried her all over the world. So I think like in standards and everything like that, I think for us, that was it. Yeah. Yeah. Go.
What was your standard?
Mine was a
Oh, the
caring
caring
heart.
heart.
Yeah.
Lovely. All right.
Yeah.
That was for me. That was mine. That was mine. The caring heart. That was mine. And I'm just simply saying. I'm simply saying all of that with the point that I was making, that there needs to be a rewiring for us as men and women. There needs to be a rewiring for us as men and women in how we see ourselves. First of all, in this idea of church and what church is. You know, forget about, you know, I can't get married, and, you know, women are saying I can't get married, and men are like, well, I can't find the right woman. I'm like, all right. I feel there needs to be a spiritual rewiring in the church about what it means to be men and women in the kingdom, not in the church, in the kingdom. Because the church ain't doing everything that the kingdom is doing. You know what I mean? The church is watching a genocide and its mouth is locked. You telling me that's the kingdom? No, that's the church. The church don't always behave like the kingdom. And the conflict of the church has never been with the world. In most times, the church is a clear reflection of the world. The church's conflict has always been with the kingdom.
Wow.
Yeah, the church's conflict is with the kingdom. It's not with the world. It's not with the world. We look like the world, we dress like the world, we sound like the world. The world is quiet right now. The church is quiet right now. Well, that's the church, that's not the kingdom. The kingdom will never be quiet in the face of that.
Yeah.
The kingdom will never be quiet in the face of that. So I feel that that also falls out onto the way in which we think about ourselves as individuals. We think about ourselves as men, and we think about ourselves as women. We think about our value. We think about our worth. We think about what it means just to have solid social relationships, and then social spiritual relationships. And I feel that there needs to be a whole rewiring, you know, because most of our rewiring is still just culturally based. It's still colonially based within church. It's culturally based, it's colonially based. And it has nothing to do really with the kingdom of God and who God is asking us to be. And when you go to the book of Ephesians, Ephesians really outlines what it means to be men, and what it means to be women, and what it means to be community. You know, And for the church, there is no critical examination of how we got here, why why we got here, and why we still remain here. There is no critical examination, you know. So it's like, well, men are not coming to church because of women. I'm like, brother, keep women's name out your mouth. You know what I mean? And let's look at what we do in terms of church.
I'm thinking about what you said about other centeredness, which I
Yeah.
suppose is kingdom mindset, right?
Mm.
And now we feel like we're in a self-centered space, very individualistic. I want this, 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 this. The list is long, 6 foot.
But what you bring into the
Okay.
table?
What are you
You know,
bringing to the
I'm
table?
bringing
Yeah,
me. I'm bringing me. You know what I mean? Well, listen, I'm bringing like a six-figure salary.
yeah.
That's it, bruv. That's all you're bringing. Like, you are just a six-figure salary. So
See,
take
see, for
away your
some women, that's
six-figure
everything.
salary. Who
Yeah.
are you without your six-figure salary?
Wow.
That's the question. Without your six-figure salary, who are you? What do you bring in terms of integrity? What do you bring in terms of wisdom? What do you bring in terms of tenderness? What do you bring in terms of strength? What do you bring? I was just reading this. There's a really good book that I'm reading at the moment. Um, oh, Lord have mercy. I don't even want to put it up there because, anyway, sure. Yeah, it's called The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. You know what I mean? The Will to Change. It's beautiful.
Why did you
And
contemplate putting it up?
Because they bell hooks.
why not putting it up? Oh, well, you know, well, you know, truth be told, I'm only thinking from the perspective of our community. But outside our community, there's people that will read and be. But anyway, she tells this brilliant story. Um, It says, a Maasai wise man, when asked by Terence Real, Terence Real is an international family therapist, brilliant family therapist. When asked by Terence Real to name the traits of a good warrior, replied, I refuse to tell you what makes a good Morani warrior, but I will tell you what makes a great Morani. He said, when the moment calls for fierceness, a good Morani is very ferocious. And when the moment calls for kindness, a good Morani is utterly tender. Now, what makes a great Morani is knowing which moment is which. So my thing is, man, take away your six-figure salary.
Who are you?
Yeah, yeah, what kind of man are you?
Yeah.
What kind of man are you outside of your six-figure salary? How
And
do other men
he's six
speak up?
pack. And he's six pack.
Be a six pack.
And he's
You know what
six
I mean?
inches. And he's 6 foot.
Six
Like
inches.
the whole superficial thing, the whole superficial thing. You know what I mean? So why, for me, the question isn't why aren't men in the church? The question for me is why isn't the church in men? Yeah. You know, or maybe is too much of the church in men and not enough of the kingdom in men.
Mm.
Yeah, no. I don't like it when I don't like it when Curtis does that, like, oh, well, you go there for, man. Sure. All right. You know, and when
No,
I
no,
say the
but
church, I mean just the
but it's
church as
not.
we're even discussing now.
It's not that. It's you've opened something up there, and
Oh man.
and
Listen,
and
that's why I don't like talking with you two, you know. Sure.
I'm being quiet today. The hay fever's killing me, but I'm here.
You know me well enough to know my deep love and commitment for the church and the kingdom. And so I don't even like having these conversations. Sure. You know what I mean? I don't even like having these conversations. But we got to think about what kind of church. Not only are we leaving to our children, what type of church our children are just refusing to come to and why that is. You know what I mean? And if we're like you and me, we're blessed enough to have our children still in church. But all them pickney them that ain't coming to church, they're our children too.
mm,
They're our children too. We can't be just like, well, I'm all right, figure it out. No, 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 no. There are children too. So we have to think for all of them. We have to cry for all of them. Um, yeah. Anyway, sorry, you were saying, Curtis. I interrupted you.
Trying to remember what I was gonna. Um, I think whilst we're on this sensitive vein, um, there is a we are. This has been a particular episode of calling out the church on a level that I don't think is even thought of. As a result, I think the pain of singleness, people who desire to be with
Yeah.
someone that can't feel is the result. And I'm like, now's a time.
Go.
It's all right. It's deeply upsetting to. I'm actually when you started to cry, it brought me to the hearts of people who are like, well, I'm doing that because I'm single,
Mm.
and I really want to, even the church I go to, shake it and say, let's make some changes that we know are going to be conducive for building families, because without that, we've just got people who are empty shells.
Or who are looking for dreams.
I remember years ago. I remember years ago. One. Um, Sitting down in conversation with Val Bernard Allen, and she said, "Eddie, I sat with a woman this week, and I sat with her as she mourned her womb.
Yeah,
A church girl, church woman.
yeah,
She said she was mourning her womb.
yeah,
The woman sat there in tears. Menopause had set in,
yeah. This is what I'm saying.
and she hadn't married. She hadn't had, and it struck me. I never forgot that. I never forgot that, man. Never forgot that. And it's easy for us to turn and say, well, maybe it's not the Lord's will for her to have. And it's so lazy,
Lazy.
and it's so reductive, and it's so dismissive because it's no engagement. Well, when the earth made new, there'll be so many children without parents. I know. Yeah, all right, I know. But in the earth as it is, what's our engagement?
Yeah.
In the earth as it is, what's our engagement? What's our engagement to even see the pain that she's going through and just go and sit with her? I mean, from that perspective. So yeah, I do, you know, our ideal, our ideals should always, be our ideals should always be championed, but the reality of where we are has to be faced. Say what you want about COVID. The one blessing of COVID for Christianity. I can't speak for the whole Christian church, so let me just speak for Adventism. The one blessing for COVID for Adventism was a pause.
But a reflection or just a pause?
The pause for reflection.
Mm.
The whole church apparatus was taken from us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the first time in anyone's Christian life, they stayed in bed on a Sabbath morning, on a Saturday morning, and they was like, oh, I can actually rest. You know, the whole apparatus of church that we breathed and lived through was taken. And it gave us the opportunity to think about what church is. I used to always say before COVID, if your church was to close down, would the community miss your church?
Mm.
And if the answer to that is no, then that means, but as far as the community is concerned, you don't exist. That's why the community wouldn't miss you. All you do is you come on a Saturday and you take up parking spaces. Well, COVID happened, and, you know, and it was our chance. You're talking about nearly 2 years of lockdown, out, not being in church together, to think about who we are, what we do, how we move forward. Let's think about what we've done over the past up to decades that don't actually work. And let's make plans as a church. Let's make plans as an organization
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's make plans as conferences and unions and divisions. But more than anything, let's make plans as local churches so that when we come back, we can get rid of the things that don't work and do new things.
I don't think we did that. We just went back
We
to
did
what we
not.
knew.
We did none of that. We sat. I used to speak. I spoke across the whole world on Zoom. I would see Adventists sitting down in their church clothes in their house in Zoom.
On a hat.
I heard this. I've not seen it, but I
Like
heard.
literally in hat and suit. And we did none of it. And then we rushed back. And coming back, we lost a whole generation of young people.
Yes.
One of the things that I was concerned about was for Rhea and her spirituality during COVID. Rhea picked up her phone and she goes, "Oh, Dad, look on my phone." She showed me like the daily devotions that she was getting. She showed me the churches that she was looking at for worship services. She showed me the discussion groups that she was in on a frat. I'm like, oh Lord have mercy, this girl's spiritual plate is fat.
That was the same as
I didn't even worry. I did not even worry about her. Remember during that time they had that app. It was that new app. It was like a kind of clubhouse
Oh yeah.
conversational app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I remember being in one of them one time in England. Well, I was on a South England conference and I was talking at a church in Manchester over Zoom during COVID. And they said, "What would you say to the young people?" I said, "You don't need to worry about the young people." I said, "I was in a what was it called? Anyway,
Clubhouse. Yeah.
Clubhouse." I said, "I was in a
Yeah,
Clubhouse
Clubhouse,
chat."
yeah.
I said, "I was in a Clubhouse chat last weekend with young people from across the British Union. There were 500 of them in a room."
Wow.
I said, "You don't need to worry about the young people. They're good." The young people are good. I ain't got nothing to tell you. My word to them, keep on doing what you're doing, you know. And coming back from COVID, we lost a whole generation
Yeah.
because I was like, no, I'm not going back to my church. I'm not going back to that. No, my church is a spiritual wasteland. I'm going back for the connection,
Yeah.
but I'm not staying. I'm not staying, you know. I'm not staying, you know. So you'll find that you'll get a lot of Adventists who keep the Sabbath and they'll worship on Sunday.
Mm.
They'll go to other churches where they feel a
No.
sense of worship, they feel a sense of community. They still are Sabbath believers and Sabbath keepers in that sense, but they're in others. Now, where are the men? I preached at a Tongan church in Sydney last week. Ram up with man.
Tell
You
us.
come to my
Tell us
church,
what a Tongan church
Tonga,
is. Where is Tonga?
from Tonga. So, you know what I mean? We're in the South Pacific. So you got Tonga, you got Samoa, you got Fiji, you got PNG. You know what I mean? Go to the One Talk Church in Sydney, the PNG church, full up a man. You know what I mean?
Why?
Go to the Portuguese church in Sydney, full up a man. Go
Why?
to the Fijian church, go to the Samoa. Well, because, well, first of all, we're in the South Pacific. Yeah, and in the South Pacific, the idea of God is central to culture.
Yeah.
Whereas in Western societies, God is not central.
Yeah.
God is not central.
So,
You know what I mean? The idea of the divine is not central. You have to go looking for the divine. You're not brought up with the idea of the importance of the divine. But this is the South Pacific. The South Pacific has never rejected the idea of the divine. That's why you had PNG, PNG for Christ. I think you heard about it.
Mhm.
And they had evangelism, one month of evangelism. They baptized 350,000 people
Papua New Guinea.
in Papua New Guinea. You know what I mean? All the numbers are in now, and they've baptized 500,000 people across the country. You know what I mean? But in the month that they did it, Yvonne was one of the preachers. She baptized 1,900 people in her evangelistic meetings. Yvonne, you know what I mean? I mean, she was waxing, brethren, waxing out there. You know why? It's not because the people are primitive or any of that kind of foolishness. The people have never rejected an idea. The culture has within it an idea of the divine.
Mm.
Yeah, they've never rejected an idea of the divine. So that's why the churches are full, because the idea of worshiping God, the idea of recognizing that there is a God, the idea of being a part of a community of worship is just, yeah, that's what we do here in the South Pacific. Whether we worship the Christian God or whether we worship our ancestral gods, but we worship. You know what I mean? So yeah, of course men are at church. You know, our in our Western church, we've got a generation that's grown up and they're Western men. They're Western men. You know what I mean? And it's not that we have to do the work to convince them like you would other communities. But what we have to do is we have to make church inspiring enough. And we have to make church engaging enough. We have to make the community and the idea of faith present enough to hold them, because they won't see it as interesting, or they'll find another faith community in which to engage their faith. You know.
I wanna ask you, as we always do, these reflective questions.
Oh gosh, don't. No, no, we're
No,
not
you're
doing
good. You're good. It's not for you. Don't worry. It's
Oh, okay then. Okay.
yeah. um,
No, you don't like me at all, man. I thought I'd turn this thing off.
I think that one is gonna be a tearjerker.
well, it is what
Oh,
it is. Eddie knew what it was before he came here. Um, I
Yeah,
want
it's
you
a deep one.
to. I'm going to start the sentence. I want you to finish it.
I can do.
oh, not one of them, man.
Yeah, but it's not for you. Don't worry.
It is for
All right.
him.
Okay then. Okay then.
Yeah.
It is. It is for you. I think it is. Kat thinks it's quite generic, but I think it's for you.
Let me just give the rules. As concise as possible.
Yeah.
Reflect, obviously, before you answer.
hmm
Silence is good.
hmm
One answer.
Okay.
Go.
I want the church to.
I want the church to admit that it doesn't know.
I'm gonna let you expand on that.
I just want the church to admit that it doesn't know its condition. I want the church to admit that it doesn't know what to do. I want the church to admit that it needs help. As King Jehoshaphat said, we are powerless and we are clueless, but our eyes are on you. I want the church to be that vulnerable. That's what I want for the church. I want the church to admit that it doesn't know what to do. And it's all right to admit men don't know what to do in this moment. That's why you got so many toxic men who are having such great influence over men, because they don't know how to be in this moment. They don't know how to be in this moment. And you've got men who are coming in and filling that gap and monetizing it. You know. Yeah, I want the church to admit that it doesn't know.
I want women to.
I want women to know that that you've been enough, that you've always been enough. I want women to know that you have always been the equal. I want women to know that the kingdom has always seen you as of equal value, of equal gift, of equal skill, of equal worth, of equal calling. I want you to know that. Yeah.
I want men to.
I want men to find the company of men, be vulnerable and honest about where they're at, and begin to address it. And then I want them to call women into that space and begin to address that together. but men have to be honest about themselves first. And then you need to call women into that space. And then you need to address that together. Because there is no separate spaces in the kingdom. There's only one space. There's only one space. Yeah. Was that it? Oh, I did all right.
Yeah.
You didn't break me.
No, it wasn't for today.
But we will.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to thank you for joining us tonight, this morning.
Mm.
Um,
He's in the future, people.
oh, is it? Yeah.
I'm in the future, man.
Tomorrow. What time is it there?
It is 7:20.
A.M.
Whoa.
It is
A.M.
7:20.
Yeah. Thank you. You're always there for us, man, and we're there for you.
Oh man. I love sitting down with you two. You know that. Why is this thing keep on coming back on, man? It's some dumping out the air conditioning, bro. What kind of thing is this, man? Switch you off, bro. Stay off, man. What's wrong with you? Sorry.
Oh,
Uh,
it's all
You
right.
got some ghosts to
yeah.
deal with. We'll leave it to
I'm
it.
No,
serious.
I wanted to ask is, you do have, I see on your social media, a regular bonfire that you light up, and I can only
Man,
see size 10 foot and up, feet and up, um,
that's
and
our men,
beards. Yeah, what is
and
that? What is that? And what's the power? What's the power in it?
Mm.
the power in it. It's our men's group. We created. It's called Mountain Men. You know what I mean? And the reason why it's called Mountain Men was that we had this devotional, and the devotional was just based on the experiences of men in the Bible on different mountains. Um, Mount Moriah, um, Mount Carmel, the Mount of Blessing. And so it was, that's what brought us together. And it's just been a really beautiful place for us, a beautiful place of bonding and honesty and checking in. And so we'll go in spurts. So we'll go like for 13 weeks and then we'll have a little break. And then we'll go for like 13 weeks again and we'll have a little break. So we've just started back up. It's winter now. So we're going we were last year we were going every week, you know what I mean? Um, but this year we decided to go every 2 weeks. But we just miss each other in the in between. We're still calling in like, how's everyone tonight? Yeah, I'm just sitting at home, man. Family Sabbath, you know. And, but it's been really important for us as a group, and we've got new men joining this year, which has been nice. So that's my fire pit. Next week we'll be around at Sam's house. Sam is one of our elders. He's the other men's leader, and he's got an even bigger fire pit. You know what I mean? And so we cook up some food, and then we sit and we check in, and then we have spaces of just spiritual grounding, accountability. It's good. And we have the younger ones with us as well. Um,
Wow.
you have to be at least about 19 plus, 18, 19 plus to be in this group. You know what I mean? We're going to plan a weekend in which fathers and sons, and we take all the younger kids away with us. But in that group, you have to be an adult because the conversations are adult conversations. You
Yes.
know what I mean? The conversations are adult conversations.
What's the
Uh,
benefit of it?
Honestly, I think the benefit of it for men is like, oh, I'm not crazy then. It's not just me. Oh, you as well.
You
Oh,
too.
snaps. All right. All right. Yeah, like literally like, oh man, I thought it was just me. You know. And yeah, I think for men it's the benefit is the solidarity. The benefit honestly also is the accountability. There is deep accountability in the group. There is no, you can't be, yeah, there is accountability in the group. So, and we allow each other, we give each other permission
Yeah.
for that accountability. So that in and of itself is a beautiful thing, you know. So yeah, I think men need to find those spaces. You might not be like us around a fire. You know, you can meet up in a friend's house, you can meet up in a cafe, you can meet up. You know, there are some nights where we'll just go out to a restaurant and we'll just sit around the table and we'll just eat and we'll chat. You know, and sometimes it ain't even accountability. We just get together and we just eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're just in each other's company.
Yeah.
So for men, it's about knowing that yeah, you have community. You don't have to be no lone ranger.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You don't have to be no lone ranger. Yeah, so I think it's important for men to have that. I think it's important for men to create that. You know, I would actually love that eventually we do that and we sit with our women, all of us sit together just in these groups and we chat and yeah. I think it's important that for the men, but also it's important for the couples. You know, we're going to be doing a table for two with here at home. You know, we're going to be doing a table for two for the couples
I
here
was
at
going to
here.
ask, like, what kind of projects are you up to now? Is there anything you want to promote? I know you're on the other side of the world for some of us, but
Well,
for some people in
honestly,
Australia that could be listening.
I
Yeah.
was thinking about that, and I was really the only project that I've got on at the moment is my PhD. It has taken so much of my time. It has taken so much of my time and my mental energy. I, I, at the beginning of the year, I wanted to do a living from here weekend. I wanted to do, like 3 days away, come away with me for 3 days and give people the opportunity to, like I said, unstick, and we carry them through. Their own narrative, and give them a renewed sense of resilience, a renewed sense of direction. So all it is, you just bring your life into this space, and in this space, your life will connect with all these other lives, and I will give you frameworks for you to unravel while connecting, and then all right, go and get on with it. But do it in a space of really shared connection, in a space of being away from everything, and in a space of direct engagement, just direct engagement with you. And funny enough, I woke up one morning and it was on my mind. I went and I sat on the back deck and picked up my book and I literally wrote the whole weekend, you know. I wrote the whole weekend, the workshops, everything, the venue. I wrote the whole thing and then my PhD took over again.
Uh,
Yeah, that's me. That's same here. That is a
And it's just sat there. It's like literally still it's right there in my book.
whilst you're here, can you show us your book because it's still relevant, even more so for this conversation of what we do whilst we're in this space, whilst we're finding out where the men are and that we're frustrated, maybe perhaps as women, as men, and as men, and we want to get into something meaningful. I know your book's not specifically about marriage, but it is about relationships and spaces
Oh, the
that
book
we're
that I
in,
just
right?
picked up.
The book, no,
no,
Living
no.
from Here, your Living from Here book,
Oh,
that local.
yeah. Living from here.
So where can we
Yeah.
get Living from Here? Great
You
book.
can find Living from Here. You can go to my website, EYR Limited. So that's ltd.com. I should have done just at eddiehypolite.com and you could have picked it up there. I self-publish because I refuse to give Bezos my money. Um, I refuse. Um, and so, yeah, you can find it at EYR Limited, EYRLTD.com. And yeah, I will ship it to you. It's a labor of love. Um, and I think you will enjoy. I think um you will enjoy. My favorite chapter is chapter 4. Mommy and Daddy said. Um, and Hard Yard Questions. That's my two favorite. I actually use hard yard questions sometimes when I'm doing my workshops. I get them to read the chapter and then, all right, I want you now to think about your hard yard questions
Yeah.
and be honest and write those questions down. As you can hear them distilling, write them down. You know what I mean? And then they work through that. So
We might
yeah,
need some of those, yeah, for our mixer, asking hard questions. So
yeah,
we'll definitely give you a
serious,
shout on that. What we wanted to
serious.
ask you is to say a blessing for us here. Just close
Mm,
us out in prayer.
Yeah.
We would definitely benefit from that.
yeah. Well, let me read you a blessing.
Mm.
Um, let me read you a blessing. Um, and then let me say a blessing. The blessing is from Psalms 20. The Lord answer you in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. May he remember all your offerings and regard with favor your burnt sacrifices. May he grant your heart's desires and fulfill all your plans. And may we shout for joy over your victory. And in the name of our God, set up our banners. May the Lord fulfill all your petitions. That's my blessing over you. And so, Father, we thank you. Thank you for this place of conversation and this place of reconnection and realignment. Thank you for this work being done by Curtis and Manita. Pray, Lord, that you'll bless and that you'll open doors through it, that you will give comfort and that you will give encouragement and that you will give direction. Thank you again. In Jesus' name, we thank you. Amen.
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 That's good.
Mm.
Thank you, our resident doctor.
You know.
We will have you back again when we need some
I hope some of that made sense.
insight.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm I'm still working. I'm still working through and nailing down. But um, yeah. Thank you for giving me the space to be with you all. You know, I always love being with you all.
Yeah, you
You know what
hold
I
it
mean?
so well.
You're
So
always first on the list.
you're first on the list all the time. Although it's quite obvious on our lineup of our videos, we're gonna have to jiggle it up a bit so it don't look bad. But yeah, you're
Put
always
him like
first on the list.
put him like eighth down the line. Put him eighth. Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna do that.
I'm just going to end the recording. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, day.